I'm a clinical nutritionist and a behavioral coach. I didn't start out that way. I started out as kind of a dabbler in health and also somebody who healed myself. And then I got really obsessed with learning the science of the body and working with people. So I've been vegan for 20 years. I've been vegan since I was 13. I started, I had my own sort of health crisis. I had my own sort of health journey where I had really bad acne, chronic fatigue, despite my vegan diet, etc. And I went through a healing journey. I was living in Brooklyn at the time, where I started juicing, detoxing. And the sister earlier was talking about Dr. Layla Africa. Actually, somebody gave me that book, African Holistic Health, and that changed my whole trajectory. And I began juicing, detoxing, etc. But I still didn't really understand the science of the body. And even after healing myself, I decided to go back to school because I realized that the more you know about nutrition, the more you realize that bio-individuality is key. Not one diet fits every single person. Not one health recommendation fits every single person. And so I got my master's in nutrition and integrative health. And for the past 7 months, I've been working with thousands of clients, sometimes over 200, 300 clients in a month, all with chronic conditions, obesity, anything you can name, from a young kid to an elderly person. And I've had really incredible results. I had a client who had his cancer downgraded. I've had clients get off of their hypertensive medications working with me. I've had a woman who came in for weight loss get her cystic acne healed. So I'm grateful. I'm excited to put together all this information. And the behavioral coach aspect is really about understanding how to work with people to change their long-term habits, which is something I think, does anybody struggle with long-term habits in here? Okay, yeah. Something I think a lot of people struggle with. So what I do now, I work with clients one-on-one, and I also have transformative online educational experiences. And one of them is called Staying Ageless 30 Plus. And it's an online class where I work with women 30 plus who want to look fly until they're 99 and also understand their particular body and how to take health recommendations and not just follow the fads, but like figure out what's actually working for you and what's going to be right for your body, because we can get lost in the Googles and then just be very confused about what to do. So again, here's my personal health journey. I had really bad acne. I had dark circles under my eyes and whatever. This wasn't even the worst picture, but now that I can diagnose myself, like a lot of times when people have under the eye circles is a sign of food allergies. And then I had like acne scarring and whatever, but during the process of throwing out the products and focusing on healing myself from the inside out, I was able to transform my skin and never look back. So does anybody engage in self-care? Anybody? Raise your hand if you do. Okay. So I decided to do this workshop specifically on self-care because I feel like self-care is this buzzword that people love to use right now. But for me, self-care can sort of be like a Band-Aid if it's used in the wrong way. We don't have to go very in-depth into why Black people in particular need self-care. The amount of trauma, the amount of emotional abuse, the amount of like just in general stuff that invades our space on a daily basis, we are the prime subjects for regular self-care. But for me, self-care has to be on a foundation of getting that baseline of healing yourself. So this is the acronym that I came up for self-care, and this for me is kind of summarize what self-care means to me. And I try to make it easy for y'all to remember. Take your meds. Does anyone here take medication? Okay, a couple of you take medication. One of the things that I do as a clinical nutritionist, which a lot of people don't do when you go to a doctor's office, is I can tell you all of the nutrients that your medication is depleting and all the additional side effects that it comes with. Medications always come with side effects, and they always deplete nutrients. And sometimes they even deplete the nutrients that you need in order to heal yourself. So it's really important to get very clear on what kind of medication you're taking and what it's doing to you, so at least you can supplement to try to mitigate those effects. So we're going to go through the meds. M is for, and can y'all say the word, please? Mindfulness. Hey, I was raised in the church. I love it. Okay, mindfulness is a very important part of self-care. Why? We were talking about this earlier. your body can't heal itself when it's in fight or flight mode. When your body's in fight or flight mode, you're stressed out. A lot of people get in this chronic cycle of stress, and you're always on. But your body actually will naturally heal itself when it's in parasympathetic mode, which is when it's like calm down. And meditation or mindfulness is something that you can do every single day to knock yourself into that parasympathetic mode. There's a bunch of other things you can do, but this is free for the most part. There's some aspects that could not be free. Does anyone meditate by any chance? Yoga, meditation, yoga, tai chi, qigong, all these kinds of things are mindfulness activities. There's also exercises that can be mindful. Walking, taking walks in nature. For me, nature is super mindful. This is one of my favorite parks ever, and I spend a lot of time in it. And there's this thing called Shirin-yoku. It's a Japanese term for nature bathing. And they've actually shown that it's been scientifically proven to help heal diseases and bring your stress down just by walking in nature. So even walking, meditative walking, swimming can also be sort of a mindfulness activity sometimes because of the nature of the water and the gentleness of the exercise. And here's some of the benefits of mindfulness. So we reduce the stress hormone, cortisol. We reduce risk of mental illness. We know that that runs rampant. A lot of people don't like to discuss it. It improves your mood, improves your sleep, lowers your blood pressure, which a lot of people have. A lot of people who deal with hypertension. Usually it's salt, stress. They're not sleeping enough. So I look at these things, and usually I have to add in some sort of mindfulness activity to kick them back into that parasympathetic mode. The other thing that it can do is mindfulness actually has been scientifically proven to increase retention of learning material. It's been used for people who have eating disorders. So if you have binge eating disorder, if you just find yourself overeating stuff, mindfulness actually trains you out of that because it gets you locked in that present moment and more focused on, especially if you practice eating mindfully, which is stopping, chewing your food properly, and allowing it to digest properly. Those are really important. This is I'm a big research person because I come from a clinical background. So for all of these, I'm gonna give you all a little research. This research I really liked. It was the effects of mindfulness meditation on the brain that was conducted at the University of British Columbia. And they basically found that the brains of people who meditate was completely different from the brains of people who don't. Okay? The brains of people who consistently meditated were found to have thicker tissue in the regions responsible for body awareness, enhanced focus, stress management, and attention control. That's a lot. So their brains were completely different. They also discovered because of this that your brain is not fixed. It can change over time, and positive growth can happen, and meditation can facilitate that growth. Sometimes when I'm trying to trick people into behavior change, I'm like, can you just meditate for 5 minutes, And they don't know I'm trying to rewire their brain, and it only takes 2 weeks to rewire your brain with consistent meditation or mindfulness. They also found that with regular practice, the amygdala, which is a region in your brain that processes negative emotions, was actually smaller in people who meditate, okay? So it's a very, very powerful tool for self-care, for managing your stress, for keeping you in that parasympathetic mode, and keeping you healing yourself ongoing. All right, let's go to the next one. E is for? Yes. Okay, these are two of my favorites. So I have these ageless Shioros because I teach this class saying ages 30 plus, and these are two of them. As you can see, they started exercise way late, but they're clearly reaping the benefits. Obviously, black don't crack, but ain't nobody want to be looking fabulous and still have diabetes, hypertension, etc., correct? So these women are incredible because they started late, but they still are reaping the benefits. And some of the benefits makes us look younger, reduce stress and elevates your mood. Obviously, strength training for women. I wish they just sent out a memo when you're in your 20s and was like, girl, get your muscle mass up. Because that's how you keep it right and tight, okay? That's why they look so amazing, okay? And then the other thing about exercise is it increases production of BDNF. It's a brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And basically, brain-derived neurotrophic factor enables us to learn faster, to memorize things better, remember more, and improves overall brain functioning. So exercise is huge. It's also neuroprotective. So people who have Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all these stuff. If they had started earlier with exercise, that also could have been a preventative measure for them. So if you have that in your family, you should be exercising as well. Let's go into the research on this a little bit. I love this study. There was a study done at the University of Birmingham in the Institute of Inflammation and Aging. And they had these cyclists that were 79 years old. And they had been cycling for a really long time. And they did tests on them. They found that they had healthy muscle and immune functioning equivalent to people 30 years younger than them. That's a lot. That's a lot. They also found out that the 79-year-old subjects looked biologically the same as a group of people aged 20 to 36 who did not exercise. That's a lot. So exercise can do a lot. For one, the stress. Y'all know sometimes you got to punch something, you got to run it out. The stress is huge. But if you want to look great, feel great, get that serotonin boost, exercise is the way to go. All right, let's go on to the next one. D is for? Yeah. So most of us know what our diet is supposed to look like, sort of. Like we know we should be eating fresh vegetables, organic, preferably, hopefully. No GMOs, perhaps, a balanced intake of proteins, carbohydrates, fats. Yay? Nay? Okay. Foods are addictive. All of these processed foods are addictive to too much salt, too much sugar. Most of these foods are made in lab. They're not real food. I always have to educate my clients on like, yo, first of all, you got to be eating real food. Let's talk about getting away from the packages and the processed stuff and the high fructose corn syrup, which is laced with mercury, and all of the other things that are poisonous to us, and try to focus on whole, real food. It doesn't matter what type of diet you decide to adopt, vegan, vegetarian, whatever it is. I'm big on, again, bio-individuality. I've been vegan myself for 20 years, but I really have learned through working with thousands of clients that one person's healing food can be another person's poison. And so you got to be really careful with taking information off the internet and being like, oh, let me try keto, or let me try this, and you're not really paying attention to how that affects your body, your condition, all of these things. And these are things that I take into account when I deal with clients. I also focus on incorporating ancestral foods. I'm from Nigeria, so there are certain foods that I incorporate in my diet because my parents ate them. And sometimes our ancestral foods are unhealthy. So if your ancestral foods were like fried everything, perhaps you eat that food but you don't fry it, or you fry it in a different type of oil, or you bake it, or you roast it. You see what I'm saying? But you're still getting in ancestral foods. You're also taking into consideration with your diet what specific conditions you have and what your health goals are. So there's a lot of health conditions. I could tell you straight off the bat things that you should not be eating. Hypertension, diabetes, all of these things. Usually most of us, 99% of us have insulin resistance because we take in so much sugar that our body gets tired of being overloaded with sugar, and we get super sensitive. That leads to fatty liver. Then we end up with diabetes, and we end up with a host of other conditions. So it's really like, let me eat whole foods. Let me pay attention to ancestral. Let me pay attention to what conditions I may or may not have, or conditions in my family history that I could prevent now. Because we need to start earlier. We don't need to be waiting until we get these diagnoses. We need to start way earlier and start eating in a way that prevents the things that our grandmothers had or our mothers had, etc. The other things we can do to ensure that our diet provides real nourishment. So we need to shop the perimeter of the grocery store. Have y'all noticed that most of the real food is in the perimeter? The vegetables, the fruits, the things that are not in a box, that I can pronounce it. If I know it's salmon, I know it's this, I know it's that, that's easy. If it has 6, 7, 8, 9 ingredients and you don't know what it means, you probably shouldn't be eating it, or you should do a little research and find out what that is and what it's doing to your body. The other thing we want to do is try to avoid the main additives that are really harmful. So I mentioned high fructose corn syrup. Nobody should be eating high fructose corn syrup. It's the devil, and it's laced with mercury. Added sugars, reducing an amount of added sugars if we can is very helpful. Sugar impacts our brain the same way that hard drugs do. We literally get an opioid reaction every single time we take in processed, refined sugars. So we can focus on eating like fruits, natural sources of sugar that come with fiber, which makes it easier for our body to digest it and assimilate it. That's always better. Other things are like things like MSG, Harmful additives, dyes, if you see like dyes, those are all cancer-inducing. MSG can be hidden in a lot of products as other things. Sometimes it's called seasonings. Sometimes it's called textured vegetable protein. But MSG hides in different products, and it can disrupt our sleep, it can disrupt our health and our hormonal balance. We want to consume as much organic produce as possible. And the other thing we want to do is we want to protect our gut. Does anyone here take a probiotic or eat fermented foods? Those are really, really great and important. We tend to have antibiotics thrown at us all the time, especially in the form of meat, because these animals are being force-fed antibiotics, and then we are eating them, and we're not expecting anything to happen to us, but it does, sis. Like, it does. It just messes up your whole gut flora. And even when you take a round of antibiotics that's prescribed to you by a doctor, which you know they love to give it to you for everything, it takes 2 years for your gut flora to recover from that. And that's the primary source of a lot of people's problems, not having their gut flora in check. So it's really great to figure out, and there's also a host of conditions related to this. Usually when I deal with people who have eczema, psoriasis, all these things are actually a manifestation of leaky gut. So if you have any of these things, or you want to start working on a gut healing protocol, maybe add in a probiotic, start adding in fermented foods every single day, or eating something that's fermented. What else? Let me talk about just the basics. I love this study. This is a study that was done at the Rush University Medical Center in Chicago. And they basically followed a group of people for a period of 8 to 9 years. It was almost 1,000 participants. And they found that the people who had 1 to 2 servings of green leafy vegetables daily, not only did they experience fewer memory problems and less cognitive decline, the participants who ate greens just twice daily had brains that were 11 years younger than their counterparts. That's a lot. That's a lot. So your brain really benefits from that. And there's a really interesting woman named Dr. Terry Walls, who has a protocol where she eats tons of green vegetables and fruits, and she healed herself from a neurodegenerative disease where her brain was basically degenerated just by adding in the leafy greens, adding in all of these neuroprotective foods like berries and all of that. So just getting in 1 to 2 servings of dark leafy greens can make your brain at least 11 years younger. All right, let's go to the next one. S is for supplements. So I used to be one of those woo-woo-y people who was like, I don't do supplements. I get all of my nutrition from food. I hear you, but now that I know more, I disagree. Disagree with my former self. There are supplements, there are additives in certain supplements that can be harmful. So there are things that you should be avoiding in your supplement: artificial colors, talc. Magnesium stearate is another one that you should avoid. That one's used as a coating on vitamins, but it can actually disrupt your immune system and stuff like that. So if you see magnesium stearate in your vitamin, throw that joint out. But there are a lot of really good brands that are very, very, very effective. And we need supplements now because, one, we're really busy. How many people forget to eat sometimes once a day or twice a day? It happens. We forget to eat. The soil quality is poor. So the way that we grew our vegetables and stuff, the vegetables and all that is not getting the same amount of nutrients that they had before. The other thing that's happening is that food is being transported from really, really long distances. Like, I love living in California because when I'm in California, my avocado is fresh, okay? By the time it gets over here, that joint got bruises, all kinds of problems, and I'm like, why did I just spend $3.50 on this joint? This is a waste of money. So things are being traveled, transported, all of that stuff, and it's really important that we have supplementation to fill in these gaps. These are some of the basic supplements that I usually get my clients on. A daily multivitamin that's just general and has some of the basic, hits some of the basic fat-soluble vitamins, zinc, vitamin D, etc. I also get them on omega-3 fatty acids. The brain is 60% fat, and we need omega-3s for brain and emotional health. So really, really, really helpful. If you're vegan, you can get an algae-based omega-3 fatty acid. You don't have to do fish oil. And then vitamin D, and vitamin D is not just a vitamin, it's a hormone, and it's responsible for our immunity, and people don't know this. So when your vitamin D gets really low, you're susceptible to a host of diseases, like a lot. So it's really important to make sure that you monitor your vitamin D levels and keep them at the proper standard. And especially for black people, because we don't get enough sun. Like, I feel great when I'm in Africa, but out here in these streets with no sun, I'm not feeling it. You know, I need that vitamin D. So there's levels to this supplementation game. In my class saying ageless 30 plus, I graduate them beyond the basic supplementation. We start talking about some stuff that could really improve their energy, that could really like do some really intense work. So the baseline supplementation are the things I told you about that are very helpful to just make sure that your blood work comes back normal and you're okay. And then beyond that, you can also do superfoods. These are things like moringa, baobab, spirulina, chlorella, things that just have a lot of nutrition in them that you can throw in smoothies. They're just as good as a multivitamin sometimes because of the amount of nutrition in them. Like moringa literally has been used to like cure malnutrition. It's intense. It's great, and it comes in abundance in West Africa. And then beyond the superfoods, I work with my ageless tribe on adaptogens, and adaptogens are my favorite class of herbs because they're generally safe for most people to use. I'm always really careful about letting people use them when they're taking medications, but adaptogens basically correct HPA axis dysfunction. The HPA axis is your hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, and your adrenal glands. This is how your body reacts to stress. And what the adaptogens do is if you've just like, let's say you've been freaking out, you're in a stressful job, you're overrun, you're not sleeping, your whole joint is stressed out, and you're stuck in that sympathetic mode, that fight or flight mode, and you're always stressed out, ready to curse somebody, your body is then going to naturally produce disease. But the adaptogens work to correct HPA axis dysfunction, and that can be very, very powerful. It can be very powerful for women over 30, it can be powerful for anybody, because these things basically help us adapt and respond to stress in a very, very natural way without causing any weird, crazy side effects. And there's a host of adaptogens you can work with. I work with several. I work with astragalus root. I work with reishi mushroom, which is a medicinal mushroom that's been used in like Asia for years and years for longevity and other things. There's rhodiola. There's maca root, which actually helps women balance out their fertility. If you've been having trouble conceiving, it can balance out your fertility. It can also make you gain a little weight in the hips and stuff, so careful with that maca. What else? There's so many adaptogens that I love, and so that's one of the things that I teach. And then above that is vitamin therapy. And a lot of people don't know about vitamin therapy. And vitamin therapy is what made me change my mind about supplements. People don't understand this. So remember how I said every medication has a side effect? Well, vitamins can actually, certain vitamins, I won't say all, because certain vitamins can be toxic when they're taken in high amounts, but certain vitamins can be taken in high amounts and only produce side benefits, not side effects, okay, like medication. So let me give you this study, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about vitamin therapy. So vitamin therapy, this is an abstract from the first guy who used vitamin C to treat AIDS, okay? This was in 1984, and Dr. Robert Cathcart, MD, he treated AIDS patients with 200,000 milligrams per day of vitamin C, and his patients were living longer than expected with little to no symptoms. Cray, cray. He said in his abstract, I'll read it to you because it's interesting. He said, my previous experience with the utilization of vitamin C in the treatment of viral diseases led me to the hypothesize that high-value doses of vitamin C would be of value in the treatment of AIDS. Preliminary clinical evidence is that massive doses of vitamin C, 500 to 200 grams per 24 hours, can suppress the symptoms of the disease and markedly reduce the tendency for secondary infections. Pretty cray-cray. There was another guy, his name was Dr. Pauling, and I found him really interesting, and because he was a scientist who won the Nobel Prize twice, and he started talking about, before he died, he started talking about using vitamin C for heart disease, for AIDS, for all these different things, for cancer, and everyone called him crazy, and he was blacklisted, but in the past 20 years, all of the research has supported his original findings. So it's starting to come out now, and what I'm big on research, but I'm also aware that the medical community doesn't always endorse the people doing the good research. So I'm always trying to look behind, behind all the hidden doors to find what I can use to make my clients well. And vitamin therapy is something that you really should look more into. There's a movie called That Vitamin Movie, and it's online. I highly recommend you watch it. You can also check out this guy named Dr. Andrew Saul. He loves to run his mouth about vitamin therapy. He's incredible. I think he even used vitamin E in mega doses to cure his father of heart disease. So there's different, vitamins can be used in different ways, and they can be used in ways that don't cause side effects. They cause side benefits. And the reason why no one's going to tell you this is because nobody makes money off of you taking vitamin C to heal your AIDS or heal whatever else you got going on with you. All right, let's go to the next one. S is for? Sleep. Yeah, they sleep, we grind. Anybody say that before? Anybody in here? Okay. I've heard people say it, and I just look at them with a little side eye. Why? Because I really believe that sleep is the foundation of healthy living. I really don't believe that I can layer anything over that unless you're sleeping. Why? There's so many reasons why. So, my client, I had so many weight loss clients, and they're losing 20, 30, 50 pounds, whatever. And usually when someone hits a plateau, I know it's because they're not sleeping. If I start asking them if they're sleeping, they'll tell me 3-4 hours. And I'm like, you can't lose weight on 3-4 hours of sleep. You can't restore memory on 3-4 hours of sleep. You can barely function. Your one night of sleep deprivation makes you as insulin resistant as a type 2 diabetic. One night. One night of sleep deprivation influences the craving, the hormones that influence our cravings, which is why usually when we don't get no sleep, we're like, give me that donut, give me that pizza, because our brain's trying to get glucose as fast as possible. So how do you then layer exercise on top of that? You can't. You got to start with sleep, then you can start with exercise, then you're probably more likely to eat something better, right? So for me, sleep is the foundation, and we have to start making it very, very important in our lives. Let's see. Yeah, there was I don't know if y'all heard the story of Ariana Huffington, the woman who started the Huffington Post. She actually was so sleep deprived that she fell asleep at her desk and had to get several stitches on her forehead just from overworking herself. You heard about that? And then you notice that she switched it all up and started sleeping and wrote a whole book on sleep. So let's not wait till we get to the point where we get stitches on our forehead, okay? Let's start now. And let's start prioritizing our sleep. When we don't sleep, besides the other things I told you, we also decrease our immune functioning. A study showed that people who get less than 7 hours of sleep are more than 3 times more likely to develop a cold. I think most of us know that. Usually if our immunity, if we're not sleeping, our immunity gets low, we're going to get something. The other thing is that sleep deprivation strongly impairs human brain functioning and judgment. Sleep micro sleeps, like when you nodding out in church and nodding out in your car, nodding out to work or whatever, all those micro sleeps, those are actually cause more car accidents than alcoholic people who are drinking because of alcohol. So we need to get our sleep life together, y'all, because we can't be on the road, we can't be functioning, we can't be working and be at our best. The other thing is that sleep enhances our memory and our productivity. I want to give you a few facts from Columbia University because I work primarily with people dealing with weight loss a lot in this clinic, and I was always very, very interested in tweaking their sleep to get them the best results. But it showed at Columbia University that getting less than 4 hours of sleep makes you 73% likely to be overweight. And that's because also that, remember I just said, insulin resistance, right? You're increasing your insulin resistance. 5 hours sleep makes you 53% more likely to be overweight. 6 hours makes you 23% more likely to be overweight. So this is how I am now with my sleep. I get a little Liam Neeson on people. Don't be calling me. My stuff is shut off. Don't text me. And this is how we all need to be about it, because during that time we're restoring all of the functions of our body and we're allowing ourselves to heal by getting proper sleep. A lot of people who can't heal, I notice they usually have really, really bad sleep cycles, okay? All right, so these are the basic fundamentals I want to go over. But I want to talk a little bit about rituals because I do a lot of things with habit forming in my class, Staying Ageless. One major key is that rituals help you set a strong foundation for self-care. Like basically desire can take us only so far, but if we don't do anything, if we don't set anything in place, we can't get to where we're trying to go. And for me, rituals are a major key to getting to your health goals. I've actually interviewed, so Miss Ernestine, I showed y'all Miss Ernestine, but I've interviewed a lot of centenarians and people older because I'm obsessed with agelessness. So I interviewed this guy, Bernardo Lapayo, he's 109. I interviewed this woman, they call her the ageless woman. She's a black woman that looks flawless, who she eats only raw vegetables and water from her garden, etc. But when I talk to these people, you realize that they all have these small things that they do every single day. They don't change it, they don't vary. It might even sound boring to you when you hear them talking about it, but they all do these same things every single day. It might be their little workout, or they have their little way that they prepare their food. And it's really just about them getting their brains to create these habits or rituals that they just keep repeating because they know that's going to be life-giving, okay? And the difference between, like, a habit and a ritual are basically the same thing. Like, I'm working with my students in Staying Ageless 30 Plus right now on creating their habits. They're implementing their rituals that we already designed. But the biggest thing that differs from just a plain habit for me is that it makes you feel joyful. I feel like people try to do something, they're like, let me get a gym membership. It's like, do you like going to the gym? If you don't, then maybe you should try a home workout or walking or dancing or doing something that brings you joy. Like, it's gotta be, in order to keep it up, let me not wanna, you know what I mean? Let me not wanna be like, oh, I gotta go. Like, it can't be, it's gotta be joyful. So find something that really just makes you really excited a little bit to get you started, because that's going to keep you going for the long term and get you the results that you want. The other thing you want is that the ritual makes you feel alive, centered, and present. It's something that keeps you rooted in the present. The ritual should be life-giving. It should feed your mind and your spirit, or your body and your spirit. I always say that because I feel like there should be some sort of spirit component to your ritual. There's something that happens that makes you feel really good and you feel nourished by it. And then whatever your ritual is, it should propel you towards your health or wellness goals. So it's got to be specific. You got to know what your goals are. If it's healing yourself from disease, sure, that can be a goal. But then you got to find the rituals that are going to get you to that place. All right. The next thing is that your wellness really has to be holistic. Oh, wait, let's read this real quick. Can y'all read it with me? What are rituals? Repeatable practices that allow me to take my meds and make me feel joyful, alive, centered, present, are life-giving, feed my mind and spirit or body and spirit, and propel me towards my wildest dreams. And I said wildest dreams because I've had so many clients that, like once they get there, like nutrition is powerful to me because it can really transform the whole energy of your whole life. You do a parasite cleanse, you'd be like losing friends. Like, you do a detox, you might end up with a new job. You know what I mean? Like, nutrition is powerful because it's all energetic, right? The sister was talking about it earlier. Everything is energy. And I had a really powerful experience with this one client who came in, and she was in a really toxic work environment. Every single time I would see her, I'd be like, sis, you need to quit that job, and I think we're gonna, make some more progress on this weight loss. She quit her job. She came in, and when she weighed in 20 pounds less. And I was shocked, because you know what I mean? I got it. But that just shows you how sometimes the stress that we take on, it manifests as disease. It manifests as extra weight. It manifests as baggage. And so when we can get rid of those things, we get closer to starting the business we want. We get closer to feeling more energized and, showing up for our family and setting a better example. We get closer, you know what I'm saying? It's all about that energy shifting. And when you take care of your temple, you take care of everything else. At least you set the foundation for everything else to get to where you want it to be. And that's part of why I do what I do, because I love seeing that shift in people's lives, because it doesn't just happen in your nutrition. It happens in your entire life. This is why habits matter. I was just working with my students on this. So there are 3 levels of behavior change. There's identity, processes, and outcomes. Your processes are the things that you do, your habits. And now everyone thinks, oh, well, I don't have habits. Well, the whole point is the habits are invisible. There are things that you naturally do and you don't even think about it and you just do it unconsciously all the time. That's your processes. Part of the thing that you need to do is get very clear on what those habits are and start taking stock. Oh my God, every single time I'm stressed, I go eat chocolate. Or, oh my God, every single time I go in, I just binge watch, TV or whatever it is. All these small little decisions affect the whole trajectory of our day. And usually if we can start commanding these small decisions, become aware of them and which ones are not serving us, then we can input other behaviors. And I wish I had more time to talk about this because this is my favorite thing to talk about, how to change and trick your mind into rewiring new habits. But the one thing I wanted to tell you about this was, when I work with people, most people work on outcomes, right? Like, I want to lose weight, or I want to heal, or I don't know, I want to get rid of my hypertension, or whatever it is. I just want to eat healthier. That's great. I try to focus on identity, okay? The reason why I focus on identity and instead of focusing on outcomes is because if I become the kind of person who never misses a workout, do you think I'm going to lose weight? Maybe. If I become the kind of person who always eats my vegetables and takes my supplements, am I going to lose weight? Probably. So I like to focus on identity because if you can change the way you think about yourself, oh, I'm always someone who loves junk food. Oh, I love Chick-fil-A. Or whatever it is. Whatever it is, if you could change your identity and start focusing on who you want to become, one, it's more compelling because you can create a vision for who you want to become and not be so myopically focused on, oh my God, I need to lose another 15 pounds. That's not very motivating anyway. But if you can focus on who I want to become, it has something that can draw you and help you figure out what rituals you need that will change your entire identity, change your way of thinking, and thus change your outcome. Does that make sense? So I usually work from the inside out instead of the outside in. And most people are working from the outside in. And the problem with that is when you lose that weight, if you haven't changed your identity, guess what? It comes right back. There's a whole other thing about that in calorie restriction, but yes, it comes right back. So it's really important to start from the center and work outward. So in short, your wellness has to be holistic. My degree was in nutrition and integrative health, and I really believe that all parts of your life matter. This is one of my favorite exercises. I passed it out for some of you. I hope there was some. If you didn't get one, please grab one. It's one of my favorite things to do. You could do it 6 months to a year. Like I did, I'll show you guys mine in a second, but I usually do it every 6 months or every year. And what you're doing is you're scoring each aspect of your life on that wheel. And ideally, if you are balanced and whole, it's going to be more of a circle. If you're not, you're going to have jibby jabs all over the place. It might look a little cray-cray. It might look a little crazy, right? A little hexagon or whatever it is. But we have to pay attention to all aspects of our life coming together to make us whole. We can't just say, oh, my stressful job doesn't matter because I'm eating really well, when that stress may manifest as disease in your body, especially if you're someone really sensitive. So we got to make sure that all aspects of our life are aligning with making us whole, well, etc. I'll show y'all my wellness wheel from a year ago. This is me. Ciao. I was still in school. I was still getting my master's. Go back. And I had it was okay. It wasn't that great. But it was an eye-opening exercise because once I also got the picture of where I wanted to where I want to stretch out, I could figure out what rituals I needed to incorporate in different areas of my life. You're trying to get your finances right, there's rituals for that too. You see what I'm saying? There's all these different areas that you can create rituals for, but just having this picture of, this is where I'm at. We got to be honest with ourselves. We can't lie to ourselves. In order to make change, you first have to become aware of where you are. So this is where I was a year ago, and then I did it again, and it was pretty telling. I was like, wow, this is really cool. But you can focus in on specific areas and slowly try to make sure that your picture becomes more of a circle. And we're evolving. Life happens. Sometimes one area is going to be less just because something catastrophic happened that we couldn't control. But we can do whatever we can in our control to create rituals and habits that lead us more to that circle as often as possible. And if we can take our meds, right, we're more likely to get to this place. Okay? So that's pretty much it. I'm going to take some questions real quick if y'all have any. I'm on Instagram at @TheRawGirl. And if you would like to work with me, I work with clients one-on-one. Again, I have a class called Staying Ageless 30 Plus. I have 15 women in it right now. I'm reopening it again in May, but the pre-sale started in April, so hit me up if you're interested in that. And then please sign up for my newsletter on the way out if you're interested in keeping up with me. But I'd love to take any questions if anyone has any.